Yo, what's up guys, Ghost here. So in this video, I want to go over some new leaks that have come to light that seem to reveal possibly new and returning features for Battlefield 6. And then a keen-eyed Redditor seems to have also sussed out what map we're going to be fighting on in the new game, or the map that we saw in the teaser trailer, the building we're going to be fighting around, and its exact location. He's basically like geo-tracked it and found it on Google Maps. But before we begin, as always, if you guys do enjoy the content here on the channel, make sure you're subscribed. I'm going to be making plenty of videos all about Battlefield going into the future, whether the game releases this year or at the start of next year, as EA have said. They are totally up for delaying it if they need to, possibly because of GTA 6. Whatever the case, I will be covering the game up until then, so if that's something that interests you, make sure you're subbed up for that, and as always, thank you guys so much for the support. So let's just start with the map that was uncovered yesterday, or a couple of days ago over on Reddit, because that kind of really leads into the big leak here. So a Redditor by the name of Radar posted saying that he found the exact location of the battle shown in the teaser, and that it's apparently fought around a mosque in Cairo, Egypt. And there's a few clues he's found here. This first slide is from Levelcap's latest video, and that shows the rough translation of what it says on the wall, apparently for the future of Egypt. Although somebody over on Twitter who is a native Arabic speaker said that this actually reads as Ahmed Al-Jani for a healthy future, not Egypt. So whether it's Google Translate messing up, or Google didn't manage to read it correctly, or maybe this guy on Reddit has it wrong, I don't know, but it doesn't really matter because a lot of the other clues really lead to Egypt as well. In fact, 5 months ago, another Redditor posted saying the exact same thing, that Egypt has these exposed brick walls with no mortar. This is very commonly seen over there on multi-story buildings, and here you can see them in the background. That's from a piece of concept art. Then he's compared some architectural details like the air conditioning units, the palm trees, the black and yellow road medians here, and he's basically traced this to be in Cairo. And I have to agree, it looks pretty similar. Here's another shot as well from the teaser trailer here, and this is a different angle, but this is apparently inside a mosque, and you can clearly see that a lot of the windows here look very, very similar. The big archway that the tank is crashing through looks extremely similar there as well, so I wouldn't be surprised if this was the case. Of course, the very first piece of concept art that we saw for the new Battlefield game was tracked down to be Gibraltar. Again, this was matched up to a lot of geological assets in Gibraltar, and it pretty much looks like a 90% plus match there. So Cairo, Egypt, Gibraltar. This has me thinking, what kind of factions are we actually going to see there? I think most people's guesses were that we'll be going back to the good old US versus Russia, but now I'm not so sure. You know, Gibraltar, that is currently owned, I think, still by Britain, right? Like the United Kingdom, so maybe we're going to see that faction. Maybe Spain? Who knows? I guess time will tell though. So let's move on to the juicy stuff here. So another Redditor by the name of After East 2365 actually commented on this thread here on Reddit, and he says, I played a playtest last year and I noticed pyramids on the outskirts of the map. Everything in the playable area was mostly untextured, but it did have a similar layout to the map of the teaser. And somebody asked him, oh, how was the map overall? And he continues here saying there wasn't really much detail in the playable area, but the layout was very nice and it flowed really well. It was quite a small map. I think we were doing 20 versus 20 if I remember correctly. I haven't mentioned it before because I wasn't even sure it was the new Battlefield that I was playing at the time. They just told us we were testing some features and the game was launching through 2042. So this must have been very early. So I thought maybe they would add the features to 2042. I wrote a list of features and changes compared to 2042 as soon as I got home so that I didn't forget. So first of all, take all of these that I'm about to tell you guys with a massive grain of salt. Not just because this guy, I guess, technically could be lying. I really don't see what cause he would have to lie about having taken place in a playtest like that, though. So I feel 90% sure that this guy is just saying exactly what happened. But the bigger reason is because DICE and EA are clearly trying a lot of features out and doing a lot of iterating on Battlefield. So any of the features I'm about to tell you guys may well not be in the final game. So don't go getting your panties in a twist or anything around features that you don't like here. They most likely just wanted to try out pretty much everything to see how players liked it. However, a lot of this stuff does line up with things that we've already heard. So first thing on the list here, crouch running. This was of course in Battlefield 5, and I think it was Focus actually over on Twitter that spotted this in the trailer. We weren't sure if this was just like a soldier animation that was caught in the middle of the shot and it was something done for cinematic purposes, or it was actually a feature within the game, although David Serland has confirmed that that trailer that we saw wasn't scripted at all. And now the fact that this guy clearly says he tested crouch running means that it could be in the next Battlefield game. Then we've got repair and restock stations for vehicles. So basically the attrition system that they had in Battlefield 5. Can't say I'm a big fan of that one, but again, I'm not going to worry too much because there's no telling whether it's going to be in the game or not. I guess they're just trying it out there. He also tried a lean feature. That would be a good addition, I think. I mean, we've seen that in Delta Force. It's not something I use like all the time, but it certainly is useful, and I don't think it would really detract from the Battlefield gameplay in any way. Although that being said, it can be a little bit cheesy in Delta Force, especially with all of the head glitch boxes. And then you've got people leaning now against walls, so it's kind of like not just head glitches on vertical surfaces, but also like horizontal angles. I suppose we'll have to try it to see. He also says that gadget ammo restocks over time. I would take that one with a big grain of salt. It could just be that they didn't have the functionality in the game to actually restock ammo via ammo crates or things like that. Having your gadget ammo for all of the classes restock over time seems kind of weird and does away with a big part of the support gameplay that Battlefield is known for. Although we did see that with certain gadgets in 2042, like Liz's launcher for example, that had an automatic restock there. He says that Conquest was set up differently so that you have 3 bars to capture, and whoever fills to 3 first wins the game. So that sounds kind of weird. Like, I don't see why they would necessarily change Conquest in a big way. I think the ticket system that they have with the bleed for players dying works really well, unless they're trying to really herd players into playing the objective more and less about farming kills. That could be a thing. Anyway, I don't really understand how that works, so I digress. Then he says we've got Battlefield 3 characters with added classes including Assault, Support, Recon, Medic, and another 2 to 3 classes. I think that will be a good way to iterate on the formula, actually, like bring back the class system that we all know and love, but maybe this time have a few more classes so there's a little bit more variety. Maybe, you know, try 1 or 2 new ones there, so that way we are getting a little bit of innovation along with the old tried and true. He also says emotes were in the game that he tested. I wouldn't worry too much about this. I think people hear emotes and they think the worst. I'm probably going to eat those words later on, aren't I, guys? But what this could be are hand gestures, which we've seen in other games. I know this was in Grey Zone Warfare, which was like a more milsim-centric game, but it could be in Battlefield. It could work well. I think some players are looking for the extra layer of immersion. They don't want to type on the keyboard. They don't want to use VoIP, and hand signals could be pretty nice if you're spotting or something like that. He says there was a different leveling up HUD with new sounds, and clearly this guy tested over a year ago, right? So they've been testing this for a long time with people at locations, probably in Guildford in the UK and also in Stockholm in Sweden, and it sounds like they were just using the Battlefield 2042 client as the front end, but then it was like essentially a completely different game. So within that client, they just had a completely new HUD with new sounds there. He says that it had better sounds as well, so that must mean it's an improvement over 2042. Destructible map, of course, we've already seen that. He says it was a small infantry-focused map here, and then there was also Drag to Revive, which is a feature I've seen heavily requested by the Battlefield community. You can also hang on the back of a tank, which is pretty cool, something that I've missed, I think, from Battlefield games. I think the feeling of sniping somebody out of a gunner seat in a tank is just really, really nice and satisfying, so that may give that same level of gameplay there. Suppression apparently was also tested here. He says no tactical sprint, so that's interesting. He says there was different guns, there was a new tank. Well, we've already seen a tank in the trailer, so if he was indeed playing on that same map, that kind of makes sense. It definitely seems like a medium-sized map where you're not going to have aircraft, but, you know, something like Grand Bazaar or Sen Crossing where there's just going to be maybe the 1 or 2 pieces of ground armor. He also tested a test range, which is massive because that should be in every single Battlefield game. There is really just no excuse for Battlefield not shipping with a test range. So useful to literally every player, so that is an absolute necessity in my book. And then finally here, he says there was a holograph around the capture point perimeter. I think we've already seen that in some games before, like, you know, there's just literally like a line on the ground. I'm not sure if that's what he means there, or maybe it's a larger holograph, like you can literally see some sort of a transparent wall in the map. Who knows, really? He also said that the map looks similar to Grand Bazaar in size and layout. Now, as you can imagine, there were a bunch of people in this thread asking him all kinds of questions about what he played there, and he answered a few of them here, and he says the emotes weren't usable, but there was an emote wheel, so that makes sense. If you're going to have hand gestures, you're probably going to have some sort of an emote wheel there. He said it was a modern-looking tank, just like the one in the trailer, modern weapons, and he says they felt and sounded amazing. So that sounds pretty promising, if nothing else. Obviously, as I said at the start of the video, guys, just take this with, like, so much salt, you can't even imagine it, right? Because, again, just to reiterate, not only may this be untrue, although I do think, personally, this guy sounds like he is telling the truth, and I don't see why he would have any cause to lie about this, but a lot of this stuff is just being, we're talking a year ago, right? It may not be in the final game, so if there's anything here that you think sounds good or bad, who knows if it's actually going to be in there or not. I do think it's good that they seem to be testing pretty much everything. That's the only way that we're going to end up with a formula that I think we're all satisfied with. But this is probably not the last leak that we are going to hear. After all, even if you're in the Battlefield Labs playtesting, there is really nothing to stop people, even if you signed an NDA, from making a second Reddit account and just going and posting whatever you like on Reddit about your experiences there. And there's essentially no way that EA and DICE can track you down. I'm sure they realize this, right? They know that the game is going to be leaked, and maybe in some ways, that could well be what they want. They want people, well, like me, to possibly go in and start generating hype about the new game. Like, that is certainly a marketing strategy. But yeah, I think this year is going to be a very interesting one. It probably means that when the game releases, there aren't going to be as many unanswered questions as we usually have about Battlefield games, because we are going to have heard so much through the Battlefield Labs testings. Not only are a lot of us, well, hopefully, going to get to experience it for ourselves as well, but they have stated that DICE themselves are going to put out blogs updating us on what sort of things they're testing in Battlefield Labs, so that for those players who don't actually get in there and don't have the opportunity to test, or maybe you just don't have the time, you'll be kept up to speed with what is going to be in the next Battlefield game there as well. As always, leave me your thoughts below. Let me know what you think about all those features. Are these things that excite you about the next game, or are they things you would rather not see there? Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more Battlefield, and I'll see you all in the next one.